Welcome back to the Archive Network. Aurelius here with Malik, curators of the Origin Archive. We left 7-Eleven last time, as annual revenues soared from millions into the hundreds of millions by the end of the 1970s. Leadership adapted, forging sophisticated corporate systems to manage a rapidly sprawling empire. Today we pick up where we left off. The post-war American landscape was a whirlwind of change. We saw a nation in vibrant motion, driven by an insatiable hunger for convenience. People began to expect more from their daily lives, pushing boundaries in ways we hadn't seen before. Stores that closed at dusk felt increasingly outdated, like relics of a bygone era. We craved longer hours, more options, and instant gratification. This shift wasn't just about shopping. It was a reflection of our evolving desires and ambitions.
Aurelius, you've painted a broad picture, but let's not forget the human element. The shift wasn't just about convenience. It was about survival for many families trying to make ends meet. When women started entering the workforce, life got a lot more hectic. Schedules tightened up, and the demand for flexibility wasn't just a nice option anymore. It became a necessity for parents juggling jobs and kids. They were adapting every day, just to keep their heads above water.
You make an important point. The shift in societal roles really set the stage for 7-Eleven's transformation. The change from totem stores to 7-Eleven was about more than just branding. It was a declaration of intent. 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. wasn't just hours of operation. It became a lifeline for folks navigating the new realities of their everyday lives. It spoke to convenience and accessibility, reflecting a culture that was rapidly evolving and adapting.
But that rebranding was just the beginning for us. It wasn't just a clever name. It marked a radical shift in how we think about retail. The idea of extended hours turned shopping on its head and challenged how we saw convenience. This was a bold promise that could really change lives, but it also meant we needed the right conditions and support to make it work for everyone involved.
In 1963, a bold question arose. What if the doors never closed? Austin, Texas was chosen as the testing ground for this unconventional idea. It was a gamble that could shift the entire retail landscape. If it worked, we'd see a revolution in how we shop and interact with businesses. But the risks were daunting. Staffing challenges loomed large, and security concerns were significant. How would we manage theft? The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain.
And here's the crux. It wasn't just a gamble. It was a revolutionary act. The initial silence of night wasn't a void. It was a market waiting to be tapped. Students were cramming for exams, workers were finishing late shifts, and travelers were just trying to get home. They didn't just show up. They flocked. It was like a wave, each person bringing their own story, their own need for late-night access. This was about more than business. It was about community.
The response was overwhelming, truly. Sales skyrocketed, blowing past even our most cautious expectations. What started as a mere experiment transformed into a solid blueprint for success. While we watched, competitors floundered, struggling to adapt to this rapid change. Meanwhile, 7-Eleven solidified its grip on the market, claiming a position that seemed unassailable. It was a stark reminder that in business, as in history, those who innovate and adapt thrive, while others are left scrambling in their wake.
But let's not overlook the cost of this success. The pressure on staff was intense, wearing them down. Those late-night shifts weren't just about keeping the doors open. They forced us to rethink how we treat our workers. The human cost of convenience often gets lost in all the hype. We need to remember the faces behind the counter, the people who sacrifice their well-being to keep things running. Their stories deserve to be told just as much as the profits.
Your point is well taken. However, 7-Eleven's innovations went far beyond mere operations. In 1964, franchising emerged as a key strategy. This allowed for rapid expansion while effectively leveraging local knowledge. We saw the birth of a dynamic partnership between corporate and franchisees, a relationship that fueled impressive growth across the nation. It wasn't just about convenience stores popping up. It was about creating a network that understood regional markets and consumer needs. That's where the real strength lies.
Franchising was definitely a smart move for 7-Eleven, but it came with its own set of challenges. It decentralized control, which allowed for rapid growth. But that also meant the brand's integrity was in the hands of local owners. They had a personal stake in the business, but not everyone shared the same vision. That delicate balance between local autonomy and brand consistency is really crucial for understanding how 7-Eleven has evolved over the years and the human stories behind that growth.
A fair point. Yet, when we look at the introduction of proprietary products like the Slurpee in 1966, it's clear how this transformed stores into true destinations. These innovations didn't just drive customer loyalty. They set 7-Eleven apart in a crowded market. They were no longer merely selling goods. They were crafting unique experiences. By blending convenience with novelty, they tapped into a desire for something more than just a quick stop. This is where the magic happens.
But those experiences came at a cost, didn't they? The drive for uniqueness sometimes overshadowed the core mission of convenience. By the end of the 1970s, revenues were soaring, sure. But what about the people in the community? Families felt the strain. The growth was impressive, but it had real implications that stretched far beyond just profits. We can't ignore how many lives were affected, how many voices went unheard as the focus shifted to numbers.
You raise an important issue. 7-Eleven's growth wasn't merely about the bottom line. When it expanded into Canada in 1969 and later Japan in 1973, it became a global symbol of convenience. It wasn't just about selling snacks and drinks. It transformed how we think about retail in our daily lives. This expansion redefined the way communities interacted with stores. We saw the rise of convenience as a social norm, reshaping the landscape of consumer behavior in ways we're still grappling with today.
That's where we leave it this time. 7-Eleven continues. The story isn't finished yet. Find the full series on the Origin Archive, part of the Archive Network. We'll be back with the next chapter.